a minute or so more, and just, it seems to be still a few more people joining in, so we'll just jump into it in a second. My name is Alex Butcher. I'm a sales and technical consultant at Advanced Spatial Technologies. So we're a Bluebeam Platinum partner for the Australia and New Zealand region. Also, I have a few other products. We are an Autodesk reseller, specialising in AC and manufacturing, FM systems, Dropbox for business, Veeam backup software, and GoFMX. And we also do a bit of work in hardware with Dell, HP, and Lenovo. We have a training and professional services division, CAD West Bureau. So what we're going to go through today, just basically everything that's been added and changed in Review 20. So we go through the improvements to the markup tools, some improvements to measurement tools, changes to the markup list and how filtering now works. We'll go through the changes to Studio, the new Australian Studio server, and then also the find tools and command search tool. So if anyone has any questions at any point as well, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll get to them at the end and open it up at the end if anyone has any questions as well. I'm just going to switch my screen now. 1 second. Great. All right, so let's just jump into it. So there's been a few improvements to some of the markup tools. So basically, a few things that have changed. So with the text box now, when you draw your text box, put your text in it, you now have the option to add a leader line to it. So you can right click and add leader and point that to it, so it becomes basically a call out. This is quite a highly requested feature that's now been added. And similarly, you can also, with a call out, if you draw it and decide you don't want that arrow anymore, you can actually delete that leader line now as well. So you go delete leader here. The cool thing about that is it actually does change the type of markup as well. So this started as a text box and it's now become a call out, whereas this text box, which started as a call out, has actually become a text box as well. So it does actually change the markup type as well when you do that, which is pretty cool. The other thing as well is in the older versions, when you added a call out, it only came out on one side. So if you add a leader, now it just comes out depending on where you are. So it comes out of all 4 sides of your text box now. So you can continue, and say you've got things on each different side, you can add more leaders pointing to different things on different sides. Then the other cool thing that's changed with the text box as well, so throw another one here. So we now have different shapes that we can use as the outlines. So originally you pretty much only had the option to do a rectangle. You now put a circle around it. You can do a triangle. You can also do a hexagon. There's a lot of guys that are making symbols now with these sorts of things. So you can actually now size them and everything like that, and with the correct symbols and outline, rather than having to do them all separately. So that's the basics of the improvements to the markup tools there. There's just some very minor improvements to really widely used tools. A lot of people are really excited about the ability to add the leader lines to call outs and that kind of stuff, and then going into different directions that are all coming out of one spot, which is quite cool. The next thing, we'll just go through some improvements to the measurement tools. So basically, what's changed with the measurement tools? So basically, you've now got the option to use custom line types. So you've always had the option with markup tools. So when you draw a line, to use a particular line style. So you always had the basic ones, but you could also use the advanced line styles with the line, and you can create your own. Now you also have that option with the markup tool, so the measurement tool. So let's say we draw, for example, some lines in here. Just for example, I can now change this to a custom line style. So I can use the advanced ones that are built in, and I can use the ones that I've created. Let's say I want this to be my hot water line. And obviously you can see it. So I can now put like all of these different custom line styles in there. I could do one for my cold water as well, for example. Where are we? Okay, over here. So I can just follow this line. And here. And I'm just going to change the color of that so you can see it a bit better. And change the style so I can use the cold water one as well. So it's a pretty cool function, being able to actually see specifically what your measurement types are. Obviously, we can label those, so we can make this one here the water line, and we can go cold. It just makes it easier to visually categorize all of your markups. Cool. So now we've got our hot and cold water lines. So that's the basics of what's changed with the measurements. There's not much more to that really. The rest of it is all very much the same really. So yeah, it's just the ability to use custom line styles, which a lot of people are also really, really excited about. Next thing is the markups list. So in our markups list down the bottom here, you'll notice it doesn't look very different when you just open it up like this. The big things that have changed is how you can filter things. So when you hit the filter button here now, you get this drop down that pops up at the top here. So you can filter by subject. So we just want to see our carpet that's in there. We can now just see our carpet. Say I only want type A, for example. I could just pop that up now. So it's basically just changed the way it all appears. It's really, really simple to now filter our different markups depending on what you want. You can also save. Yes, cool. So you save, let's say, test 2. Save that, turn that off, and I can turn that back on. It takes me straight back to that filter. So you can filter based on different materials, and you can save all of those filters. So let's say you've got just different material types you want to filter out, you can do that. This is obviously labeling your measurements is really, really important, and markups in general, so that this is possible. It makes that really, really simple. So yeah, that's the improvements to the markups list there. It's just a much simpler way of filtering. Makes life a little bit easier for you guys. So cool. Let's jump into the studio. So this is the major thing that's changed in the new version. So we now have an instance of Studio hosted in Australia. So if you are a Studio user and you've used Studio in the past, you would either used one of the US or the UK Studio servers. If you now want to use Studio, I recommend doing it in the Australian server. It's much faster for us here. Obviously, it means your data is hosted in Australia as well and not overseas, which is great. And yeah, but so the key is anything that you've created in the Studio US or UK stays in there. It doesn't come across. You need to create a new account for Studio. You can use the same email address and everything like that. There's no difference there. You just have to create a new account on the Studio server. And you just need to reset up any projects and that kind of stuff if you've got existing ones set up. So when we go into here, I'm just going to sign in quickly. There's also a few things inside the Studio that has changed as well. You can now invite users from Studio groups and Outlook address book, sorry, and from an email list as well. So you can pre-save those. You can also invite users and assign permissions before the user has a Studio account. So they'll send them an email. They'll just then have to create an account. And then, yeah, that's basically it. And then you can also arrange your sessions by joining and not joining. So if you've been invited to a session, it will pop up in this not joined before you've joined it until you actually go into it and start it. So to create a session, no different. Go on here, we'll go to the session. I'm just going to call this webinar. Add my open file in there and say that. Yep. Okay. Cool. Great. Yes. Options. permissions, and you can set these as you want. You can restrict attendees by email address still, all of that's no different. Set an expiry date. Okay. And we'll create the session. Just a sec. It's already created it, which is great. It's a lot faster than it used to be. Now the invite users pops up. So this has changed a little bit. It looks a lot different. You can type or paste emails. You can add emails from groups. So I think I've created a group. Say it was in here. To myself and Ty. So I can add this group in and it'll send invites to Ty and myself. Or you can do it from an address book, or you can just type them as well. So let's say lemon. You can do this. As well. Cool. So it adds them in, adds the entire there, and invite. Oh, so now I'm going to send emails to Lim and Ty. We'll probably see them join in a second. And so you can see they pop up in the not joined section. So this is another point where you can filter them as well with your attendees. You can also send a reminder to them and select them all, send a reminder, type in whatever you want, and send a reminder. So now that'll send them another email, just reminding them to join in. So that's basically what's changed in the Studio. Big things to remember is if you are using Studio to create an account for the Australian server, make life a lot easier for who's just joined in. So yeah, it'll make your life a lot easier being able to sort of have everything hosted in Australia. Everything happens a lot quicker. Your documents will upload quicker. Everything hosted live will happen a lot less issues, and obviously your data's hosted in Australia, which is great. So now we've got Ty's joined as well. You can see what they're doing. Again, we can follow them as normal. Nothing's changed with that. Follow Lim. She seems to be doing a lot of things. So yeah, that's the additions to Bluebeam Studio. Let them continue having their fun. The only other thing we've got added in Review 20 is the find and search tool. So under the help menu now, you now have the option to search for tools. So if you can't find something, you're not sure where it is, or you just can't find something, go into the help menu, find tools and commands, and let's say I want to use the cloud. And then I can type in cloud and it pops up with everything called cloud, and then I can use that tool. And allow me to use it there. Again. Cool. So now I can use the cloud. So that's a really cool tool. You can search for anything. Say I want to do a rollout. These are just simple ones that are in the toolbar. You can now use those to search for them, which is really cool. Sometimes it's easy to lose tools, or you can't find which menu they're in. So if you can't find it, just drop down and go find tools and commands. So that's basically everything that's changed in Review 20. Other than that, there's been a few more performance improvements. You should see it working a little bit faster again than Review 2019. Obviously, there's massive improvements from 2018 in that one, but again, they've increased the rendering capability and that kind of stuff. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So if anyone has any questions, we'll hang around for a little while. Feel free to drop them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask any questions.